I guess I lied when I said the next game was going to be a little less crazy. It wasn't what I planned on doing next, but here we are, looking at Lunatic Fringe and Space Madness, which actually fits, because we get to say hello to Ben Haller and Stick Software one more time. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. I can't see the authors of individual After Dark modules from the Macintosh Garden, so this happened purely by coincidence. What are the odds, eh? Although I'm getting slightly ahead of myself. If you find your way to this channel, which is all about obscure Macintosh software, then I feel like After Dark doesn't need much introduction. Even though After Dark isn't actually Mac only, that is where it was popular. It'd be like introducing X Generation to a Trekkie. So many Macs I've seen had After Dark in some sort of skyline or, of course, the iconic flying toasters. Funny enough, there were Star Trek modules for After Dark, but that's a story for another day. We had somewhat darker screensavers around our house, but once again, we'll save that for a more in-depth discussion of After Dark itself. Lunatic Fringe was part of an add-on set, kind of like the Star Trek or more macabre screensavers, but a different set, released in 1991 from Berkeley Systems themselves, known as More After Dark Volume 1, which I believe was the only volume, and would later be included with After Dark Deluxe. Lunatic Fringe wasn't the only screensaver to be a game, not even the only After Dark module to be a game, but it does seem to be the most well-known of them. Funny thing about More After Dark, it originally came with an antivirus module known as VirexD, which is funny to me. I'm almost certain I can list off the dangerous classic Mac viruses on one hand. Yes, it scanned your computer for viruses in its idle time, which sounds neat, but thinking about it, probably didn't exactly do wonders for the lifespan of your hard drive. It quickly got replaced with the classic Life after the makers of VirexD couldn't be bothered to update their virus definitions. Yeah, I know I'm going a little off topic, but when else am I going to talk about this? Anyhow, Lunatic Fringe. As I mentioned, it's an interactive After Dark module made by our friend Ben Haller from last episode when we covered Solarian 2. For better or worse, there's no crazy secrets tucked into this game, no never-before-seen end screen or boss fight, at least that I know of. You hit caps lock when the module comes up and away you go. For the most part, it's a rather simple game, to the point that the backstory of it and what it leads to are, I believe, more interesting than the game itself. Not to say it's bad, it's okay. It's a basic space shooter, but now with a home base and a known spawn point for the enemies. You can't do anything to their base, it's just kinda there. You can hit it, but it doesn't do anything. The most interesting part about this game are the systems. Rather than just die or lose health when you get hit, the damage goes to different ship systems, almost like we're playing Bridge Commander or something. Maybe some other time. You can only die in this game if too many systems go down or if you run out of fuel, so the game is actually rather forgiving, since you can repair at home base and from your own ship's stock of supplies, albeit more slowly this way. Runs can go a long time in Lunatic Fringe if you're that determined. Just don't touch your mouse. It is still a screensaver module after all. There are power-ups that make your bullets bigger and other such things, but the power-ups are so sparse and they just randomly appear. Sometimes I actually forget they're in the game until I get bored and wander around. Normally this would be where I'd end with something more about it, since I'm not sure if Ben Haller worked on anything else, at least that I know of, and I'd hate to leave on such a short note. Luckily, Lunatic Fringe would go on to inspire the much more polished Space Madness.
Here we go.
Now this is a much more interesting game. Lunatic Fringe has interesting ideas, but Space Madness executes them with more panache. That's a fun word. In Space Madness, you have a specific goal. Take out the alien invaders. It's just you and your highly advanced fighter craft, no home base for you. You smack down enemy ships, grab their stuff, and then blow them all to Kingdom Come. Yeah! All of this is a cocktail of asteroids, or possibly Maelstrom, Bosconian, and Lunatic Fringe, with a bit of High-Risk Software's own devious brew. This game is hard. You might notice there's no lives counter. That's because once you die, you're dead. If you get smacked around too much or just run out of fuel, you're done. Back to the title screen. It's the Dark Souls of 2D space games. Yeah, that's a joke. Don't hurt me. You might also notice that the help screens give a lot of backstory and information about you and your ship, but they're strangely lacking in information on the enemy and pickups. Well, if you read the ship information, you'll see some text that says when you encounter things, your analysis will be sent to Alliance Command when you go through the next subspace vortex. Yes, you unlock the information as you go, and there's an in-game explanation for it. Granted, some of the in-game explanations are pure technobabble, like your repair function using raw material through a molecular transmogrifier to repair your ship, as if this thing was powered by Kelvin technology. Though with a name like the DS-27E, I feel like it was named by Spy Hunter's tech branch. Shareware plots are magical things. Wait, this was a boxed retail game. 90s game plots are magical things. Wait, my word processor recognizes technobabble as a word? I didn't teach it that. Moving on. Possibly the best part about the game is how the enemies are handled. You have systems damage, limited ammo for your weapons, all of that, right? Well, so does each enemy ship. Yep, the enemy ships can have weapons, engines turning disabled, they can have trouble aiming, trouble seeing you, and more. At least if you manage to hit them with some good shots, and they can run out of ammo. But you might not want to let them do that. If you kill enemies that carry plasma torpedoes or missiles, they'll drop whatever ammo they have left. If you can take them out quickly enough, you can get rather large piles of ammo. However, one stray shot can make these ammo stockpiles explode, so be careful of that. Your ship is rather agile and turns quickly, which is both good and bad. You can turn and evade relatively quickly, which is fine when you're dodging things, especially combined with your shield system. Trying to hit things at the same time, that's a different story, which is part of why the ammo is so important. Your pellets are weak and have absolutely no splash damage. Plasma torpedoes are also dumb, but they at least explode. Missiles, when you can manage to kill an enemy fast enough to grab some, are amazing, and are a great way to gather more once you have them, by hitting other missile ships with them. Space Madness is somewhat like Solarian 2, in that it can end up a bit momentum-based, but it's not nearly as cruel about it. You do have to be careful to conserve fuel and materials when possible. You can find these basic things from asteroids, but you have to be a little lucky to find what you need, not to mention careful, as these things can be easily destroyed with a shot too. You'll do a lot of slow coasting in this game until you're in a combat situation to save fuel. You can also start at any level by hitting the L key and inputting a level. The game will actually give you a somewhat fair, though maybe somewhat lean amount of equipment. Though no matter how much equipment you have, one mistake can lead to your demise. It definitely keeps things tense. The game doesn't count starting on another level against you, just showing it on your high score. There are 30 levels to the game, but there's enough variation. I believe it essentially just loops level 30 after you get farther than that. But good luck with doing that, especially if you're starting at the beginning. Still, as hard as it is, it's at least fun to play, and like I mentioned, everything that applies to you applies to the enemies. I believe even the enemy base can run out of ammo, especially on the earlier levels given enough time. So you can use strategies you wouldn't normally use in a game like this, which makes it interesting to play even now. With the exception of Lunatic Fringe, I can't think of any game that feels like Space Madness before or since, and Space Madness pulls it all off much better. Space Madness will work just fine in either Basilisk 2 or Sheepshaver, and I didn't have to do anything special to get it to play. Just open it up and off you go. If you like this sort of game at all, I highly recommend you give it a shot. Of course, there's one other thing I have to do. Couldn't be a Space Madness review without hitting the good old History Eraser button.
What? No, don't do that. Nobody knows what'll happen if you do.
Oh, I'm going to. It's for the best for everyone.
You're insane. It's impossible to know for sure.
I'm gonna do it.
You fool!
Haha. Now no one will see my internet history.
Why am I a clone of your inferior genetic material?
Don't judge me. Go on, get out of here.